There is a photograph that went viral a few years ago in agricultural circles. It shows a commercial strawberry field in California. Hundreds of acres of perfect red fruit growing in neat rows under the sun. And right next to it, separated by a thin dirt path, is a small fenced garden. That garden belongs to the farm workers. It is where they grow the food they actually eat. They spend 10 hours a day picking strawberries for your grocery store, and then they go home and eat tomatoes and peppers from their own dirt patch because they would not feed those strawberries to their families. That image tells you everything you need to know about the modern agricultural system. The people closest to your food are the ones who trust it the least. Today we are going to explain why. We are going to walk through the 5 specific crops that the people who grow them quietly refuse to eat, the chemicals involved that they do not talk about publicly, and the one question you should be asking at every farmer's market that will tell you more than any organic label ever could. Let us start with the crop that started this entire conversation: strawberries. The American strawberry is the most chemically intensive fruit in the commercial food supply. Before a single plant goes into the ground, the soil itself is fumigated. They inject a chemical gas directly into the earth to sterilize it. The goal is to kill every living organism in the dirt, every fungus, every bacterium, every nematode, every worm. They nuke the biology of the soil so the strawberry plant faces zero competition. This sounds efficient until you realize what it means. They have destroyed the natural ecosystem that healthy soil depends on. The microbial life that breaks down organic matter, that makes nutrients available to roots, that suppresses disease naturally, all of it is gone. The soil is now dead. It is just a structural medium to hold the plant upright while chemical fertilizers are pumped in through drip irrigation like an IV bag, feeding a patient who no longer has a functioning digestive system. Once the plant is growing, the spraying begins. Strawberries are hit with fungicides, insecticides, and miticides on a rotating schedule throughout the entire growing season. Testing by the Environmental Working Group has consistently found dozens of different pesticide residues on conventionally grown strawberries. Not one chemical, dozens, layered on top of each other. And because you eat the entire fruit, skin and all, there is no protective barrier between those residues and your mouth. Farm workers who handle these crops know exactly what goes on them. They wear protective equipment during application. They observe re-entry intervals that dictate how many hours they must wait before walking back into a sprayed field. And when they sit down to dinner, they eat from their own garden. That should tell you everything. Number 2 on the list is the apple. There is a cruel irony in the phrase, "an apple a day keeps the doctor away." The modern commercial apple is one of the most heavily sprayed tree fruits in production. A conventional apple orchard operates on a spray calendar that can involve 20 to 30 separate chemical applications per growing season. Fungicides in the spring to prevent scab. Insecticides in the summer to kill codling moth larvae. Growth regulators to control the size and timing of the fruit. And after harvest, many apples are treated with a post-harvest coating, a wax embedded with fungicide designed to keep the fruit looking shiny and fresh during months of cold storage. That apple you are buying in February was likely picked in September and has been sitting in a controlled atmosphere storage facility for 5 months, coated in a chemical skin designed to prevent it from showing its true age. Orchard workers understand the spray schedule intimately because they are the ones mixing the tanks and driving the equipment through the rows. Many small orchard operators have a few trees behind their house that they manage differently. Less spray, more tolerance for cosmetic imperfection, more willingness to let a few bugs have their share. They eat the ugly apples from the backyard. They sell you the pretty ones from the commercial block. And number 3 is conventional corn, specifically the field corn that enters your diet through 1,000 invisible doorways. You may think you do not eat much corn. You are wrong. Field corn is in nearly everything. It is processed into high fructose corn syrup, cornstarch, corn oil, maltodextrin, dextrose, citric acid, and dozens of other derivatives that show up in packaged food, fast food, soda, bread, cereal, and salad dressing. The vast majority of field corn grown in the United States is genetically modified to be resistant to a specific herbicide. This means the entire field can be sprayed with that chemical, and the corn survives while everything else dies. The weeds die, the wildflowers die, the insects that depended on those wildflowers die. The soil biology shifts toward a chemical-dependent monoculture that requires more input every single year to maintain yields. Farmers who grow this corn know it is an industrial commodity. It is not food in the way you think of food. It is a raw material for a processing pipeline. Many row crop farmers who grow thousands of acres of this corn maintain a separate garden where they grow sweet corn for their own table using completely different methods. Minimal spray, open pollinated varieties, compost instead of synthetic nitrogen. The corn they sell to the grain elevator and the corn they eat for dinner come from two entirely different agricultural philosophies operating on the same farm. One is a business, the other is food. Number 4 is the potato. The potato is a quiet disaster hiding under a humble reputation. It sits in the pantry looking innocent. It is cheap, it is filling. It feels like honest, simple food. But the commercial potato, especially the russet varieties grown for the French fry and chip industry, is one of the most chemically dependent crops in American agriculture. The cycle begins with a fumigant applied to the soil before planting. Then systemic insecticides are applied, chemicals that are absorbed into the plant tissue itself and cannot be washed off because they are inside the cellular structure of the potato. During the growing season, fungicides are sprayed to prevent late blight, the same disease that caused the Irish famine. And right before harvest, many conventional potato fields are sprayed with a chemical desiccant that kills the above-ground plants, so the skin of the tuber toughens up for mechanical harvesting. They poison the plant to make it easier to dig up with a machine. After harvest, the potatoes are treated with a sprout inhibitor in storage to prevent them from growing eyes during the months they sit in a warehouse before reaching your plate. A single conventional potato can pass through 5 or 6 different chemical interventions between planting and purchase. Potato farmers who understand this pipeline often keep a separate patch for personal use. They grow varieties that the commercial market rejects because they are the wrong shape or the wrong size, but they grow them clean. One farmer put it simply in an interview that has been quietly shared in agricultural circles. He said he would never eat the potatoes he grows for the commercial market because he has seen what goes on them from seed to shelf. Number 5 is leafy greens, specifically conventional spinach and lettuce grown in the major production regions. These crops grow fast and close to the ground in warm, moist conditions. That environment is paradise for aphids, leaf miners, slugs, and fungal diseases. To keep the leaves cosmetically perfect, which is what the supermarket demands, growers spray frequently. And because leafy greens have a short time between planting and harvest, sometimes as little as 30 days, those chemicals are applied on an aggressive schedule with tight windows between the last spray and the day the crop is cut and bagged. The residue testing data on spinach is consistently alarming. It routinely ranks at the top of contamination lists with multiple chemical residues detected per sample. And because you eat the entire leaf raw in most cases, there is no cooking process to degrade any of those residues. You are eating the spray. Farm workers on large leafy green operations often avoid eating the product they harvest. They know the spray calendar. They know the reentry intervals, and they know that a head of lettuce pulled from a field 48 hours after a chemical application is technically within legal limits, but not something they would put on their own plate. So what do you do with this information? You do not need to panic. You do not need to stop eating fruits and vegetables. The nutritional benefit of produce still outweighs the chemical risk in almost every scenario. But you need to start asking one specific question, and it is the question that separates a real food buyer from a passive consumer. When you walk up to a vendor at a farmer's market, do not ask if it is organic. That word has been captured by industry and stamped on products that deserve it and products that do not. Instead, ask this: what do you spray and when was the last application? A farmer who is proud of their practice will answer you directly. They will tell you exactly what they use and why. They might use some targeted spray. That is fine. Farming is hard. Bugs are real. Disease is real. But a farmer who can look you in the eye and tell you what went on the crop, and when is a farmer who is accountable to the food they are selling. If the vendor gets uncomfortable, if they dodge the question, if they redirect you to the organic sticker on the sign, walk away. You do not need a certification to know if your food is clean. You need a relationship with the person who grew it. The safest food in America is not in the organic aisle. It is at the folding table in the parking lot where a farmer who eats his own products sells you what is left after he fed his family first. That is the list they do not publish. That is the list that matters.